Well, to give us a sense a little bit more of the situation in Zimbabwe, we're now joined by Zimbabwe's Information Secretary, Nick Mangwana. Mr. Mangwana, thanks very much indeed for joining us. You've seen those protests, you've seen the hashtag Zimbabwean Lives Matter campaign on social media, and a lot of this is pointing fingers at your government. Your thoughts on this? Are they misunderstanding the government? Are you being misrepresented?
Well, I think you have characterized it very well. It's misrepresentation and misunderstanding of actually the situation on the ground in Zimbabwe. The situation on the ground in Zimbabwe is very calm. Zimbabweans are going on about their business. What we have seen, as I articulated in the statement that our government released yesterday, is very old pictures and footage that's being circulated and recycled. Some actually, I can recall a picture where a soldier is depicted as whipping some citizen. That's actually, which is very clear Photoshop. You don't even need sophisticated software to check it out and see that it's Photoshopped and so on. And even some of the pictures you are running are quite old. There are things that happened in the past which has nothing to do with the current dispensation, which has nothing to do with the current lockdown regulation, implementation and enforcement of the current lockdown regulations, which are, excavated and being recycled.
Mr.
So
Mangwana,
that's not the situation on the ground
Mr.
in Zimbabwe.
Mangwana, recently we've seen images of a young man who was taken in. The courts forced the government to produce him, and he suddenly appeared tortured with kidneys failing. This happened in the last week, Mr. Mangwana.
I have seen the same images, quite some horrific images. But then we have said it clear that we are dealing with what is called atrocity propaganda, where some teams which have nothing to do with the state, which are not related to the state, to the government of Zimbabwe, are doing certain things in order to malign the government of Zimbabwe. And I mean, if two people decide, one, because they have got a dispute in themselves, maybe they're fighting over a mining claim, maybe they're fighting over gold. If they decide now to use the current climate that's in Zimbabwe, where people actually believe that the state is in complicity with the abduction of citizens, use that as a cover for their criminal acts.
But Mr.
It's going to be
Mangwana,
attributed to the state.
Mr. Mangwana,
that's number one. Number two, there is actually a situation where people, because we are here now, the hashtags, instead of, for example, recycling a very old image, some people are taking that law into their own hands. Go and pick somebody. Do whatever they want to do to that person, molest that person, torture that person, and then release him back. And that person, that is attributed to the state.
Mr. Mangwana,
that situation
okay, let me give you an
hashtags.
No, but let me give you a specific example then. A journalist in Bulawayo was being sought by the police. They arrived at his house. His sister was there, and they said, "Where's your brother?" She said, "He's not here." They said, "If you don't produce him, we're going to arrest you." And they took her into custody. What's that about?
Well, there is obstruction for the cause of justice. I think that's a charge in almost every country, where if you are not supporting the police or helping the police to investigate, or if you are obstructing the police from enforcing the law, then you are taken for obstruction of justice. I think that happens in every country. In America, you obstruct the FBI or you do not give them the information they require, you won't be arrested. That's normal.
Mr. Mangwana, why does your government want to make people scared of government, scared of the police, scared of the army, and ultimately scared of the president?
Peter, you are actually saying that is a matter of fact.
Yes.
That's what the government wants. The government does not want that. The government wants to engage with its citizens.
But people...
elections are won by convincing people. We want a total buy-in by the citizenry. That's the only way we can build this country. We are not going to build this country from a scared populace. So definitely there's no effort or policy to cow the population of Zimbabwe. Absolutely none. Just look at what we have been doing since the lockdown started. We opened our borders and say every Zimbabwean can come. In South Africa, we've been extremely supportive. If you check on the ground what we've been doing for our citizens, buses being sent, facilitation, consular services being provided to all our citizens. That's the kind of empathetic government that we have, rather than a government which is being portrayed out there as trying to cow people into submission. No, absolutely not. There's nothing like that.
Mr. Mangwana, you're being accused of taking away people's freedom of expression, that they can't say what they want. Cabinet just approved now a new law banning campaigning against the country. And surely people can say, we don't like our government, we want our government to go. And surely they should be allowed to even campaign against that government. What's wrong with that?
Peter, let's address two things. Number one, I'm going to challenge you to look at Zimbabwe's papers that came out today, the newspapers that were published in Zimbabwe today, and see how many papers were excoriating government, how many papers were actually attacking government, and none of the persons has been arrested. The papers are in circulation. They are being sold on the streets. That's number one. So the assumption that we do not allow freedom of expression is misplaced and not factual. Then let's go to number two. The issue of campaigning, the law, it hasn't been passed, but the law that's proposed is not for criticizing the government. It's for undermining the country. That is the law that is in America, the Logan law. It's in many countries. What is treason based on? This is the point. You go out there, you betray your own country. You undermine the country, not your government, not a political party, your country. This is about patriotism. There are also countries with the Patriotic Act, and the United States has the same act that I'm talking about. It has the Logan Act, it has got the Patriotic Act. So is there anything wrong with having such an act? We don't believe it's anything wrong. There's anything wrong with that. If there was anything wrong, please start by campaigning that American lives matter, and that act should be repealed in the United States too.
So are you saying that you're not stifling freedom of speech? Let me give you two examples, and I want you to get me to explain to us what this might mean. So the first thing, Masvingo Urban 4 Ward Councillor Godfrey Kaurawone was denied bail by a magistrate. He'd been arrested and charged for allegedly singing a protest song denouncing President Mnangagwa. Why would someone get arrested for singing a song denouncing the president?
They're asking me for a specific case, which is not policy, so I didn't follow the case, so I wouldn't be able to tell you what actually the charge sheet say. But if I had known that we would speak about it,
but that's
typical. So I do not have the facts of this particular case.
Let me give you another case then. In Kariba, 22-year-old Rujeko Mpambwa was arrested for allegedly insulting President Mnangagwa by posting a message on a WhatsApp group criticizing him for lacking patriotism over his televised address to the nation. She had to pay $500 bail. She was arrested for criticizing the president. That is not freedom of speech.
No, was she arrested in terms of the laws that exist in Zimbabwe right now?
Well, did
she break a law that exists in Zimbabwe?
Well,
so there are two things. If we are addressing certain laws that are already in Zimbabwe, then you are criticizing a law that exists in Zimbabwe, but you are not criticizing the police for enforcing the law, are you?
Are you saying that it's okay to arrest a person for criticizing the president?
I'm not going to stand in judgment because I do not know the nuances, the particular nuances of this case. But I'm saying if she was arrested in terms of the Zimbabwean law for breaking the law, number one. Number two, if she signed an admission of guilt and paid the fine, then she knows she was guilty of an offense which she was charged of in terms of Zimbabwean law. So what I'm not sure about, Peter, are you standing in judgment over Zimbabwean laws that exist now, that were passed by Zimbabwean parliament?
We're asking whether laws like that make sense, whether someone criticizing the president ought to be arrested in the first place. That's what we're questioning.
Like it depends on the nuances of what she said. Because there is a law in Zimbabwe which is against the undermining of the president's authority. That's different from criticizing the president. So if you talk about criticizing the president, your guest that is just left your show, who criticizes the president every day, every time, and he was criticizing the president on your program. And he criticized the president every second you open the papers. When you open the papers, check today's, every paper you're looking at, check the editorials. The president is criticized.
Why is Hopewell Chinono still in jail?
By the media, everybody. So like I'm saying,
why is Hopewell Chinono still in prison? He hasn't done anything wrong.
Oh no! Are you now the part of the Zimbabwean judiciary now passing judgment? You have seen the evidence, you have weighed the evidence, and now you're passing your verdict.
But what is he guilty of?
Sorry?
What is he guilty of?
Sorry, I'm missing a bit of what you said.
I said, what is he guilty of? Except for exposing corruption.
No. You are putting the horse before the cat. Sorry, the cat before the horse, rather. He is accused of breaking the law. He is now before the courts for breaking the law. He is not guilty of anything yet because he hasn't been convicted of anything. So he's going through our judicial process, every accused.
What did he do wrong that got him arrested?
Incitement to violence, I think that's what the charge she says.
But what did he say? What did he say that incited violence? As far as we know, he exposed corruption, and secondly, he also supported a protest.
Peter, what Hopewell was piggybacking on in terms of the so-called criticism of the law was an article that had been written by Elias Mambo, who was from Zimbabwe Morning Post. Elias Mambo is walking free in Zimbabwe. So that straight away debunks the theory that Hopewell Chinono was arrested for exposing corruption, because the expose was not his. He does not even have a paper to write. But I'm telling you, the platform and the article, the newspaper that wrote all the articles, the series about drugs. So that's number one. Number two, his arrest has absolutely nothing to do with corruption. Absolutely nothing to do with corruption. It has something to do with incitement for people to cause an insurrection against the government. That's what he's charged for. So let's stick to the facts. Because in terms of corruption, in every paper in Zimbabwe, I can challenge you to check the last 7 days. There is something to do with corruption. And there are actions being taken by the president and government against corruption, including the suspension of ZESA executive chairman and the board, among other things. People are arrested every day in Zimbabwe. There are convictions against corruption. So really, this charade that this thing has something to do with his fight against corruption is a lie, a blatant lie.
All right. Mr. Mangwana, I wish we could talk for much longer, but we've run out of time. And I suppose in the end, people will have to make up their minds whether they believe you or the other people. But thanks so much indeed for your version.
Thanks very much, Peter.
Thank you so much. So that was Zimbabwe's Information Secretary, Nick Mangwana, joining us. And of course, he's saying that Zimbabwe has been misrepresented, and the tweets and all the complaints that are being tabled are just not true. You make up your own mind.